This is how Jin Ping Mei is read. Chapter 47. Mao King was greedy for money and harmed his master. Simon took the spoils in a wrong way. Jihu version. Wang Liuer talked about things to make money. Simon King took the spoils and bent the law. Speaking of the city of Guangling in Yangzhou, Jiangnan, the beginning of this chapter seems to be starting from scratch. Is this a few words and two parts mixed into Jin Ping Mei? In fact, it is just a simple short story, with some new characters and new stories blended into the old characters and old stories. The world of Jin Ping Mei is no longer limited to the small territory of King County. To put it bluntly, the content this time is not complicated. It consists of two parts: Mao King harming the owner and Simon King perverting the law. To put it bluntly, it is just about money. Therefore, we simply use money as a clue to sort out this story. Basic situation: Mao Yuanwei in Yangzhou City has a fortune in his family. The monks told him that he would be in danger of a disaster and could not leave the country. His cousin in Tokyo sent a letter asking him to go to Beijing to seek a future. His family discouraged him, but Mao Yuanwei was stubborn and insisted on it. Go to Beijing, carrying 1,000 taels of gold and silver and 2,000 taels of goods. The basic plot is very similar to Wu Yangshi in Water Margin to earn money from Lu Junyi. The story of the case: halfway through the waterway, the domestic servant Mao King and the two gangsters joined together and planned to kill people and steal goods, but they succeeded easily. The Mao member Wei died. The servant in Tong was knocked unconscious and fell into the water. Mao King and the two gangsters divided the wealth. Mao King got the goods. The final sale amounted to 1,700 taels. The boatman received 1,000 taels in cash. The case broke out, and Tong was rescued and escaped from the catastrophe, but he encountered a robber and a boatman in person. So he filed a lawsuit with the criminal court. The criminal court accepted the case and arrested the boatman. The boatman confessed to Mao King. Mao King went into hiding and asked his neighbor Lisan and his wife to ask Wang Liuer to plead with Simon King. Before and after the case was brought to the criminal court for trial, the boatman was arrested, and all the hundreds of taels of silver he spent, except for his expenses, were recovered by the government. Simon King, who succeeded in the attack, placed all the blame for the murder on the two men, and sentenced the robber to murder and execution. Mr. and Mrs. Lisan, after the deed is accomplished, I will thank him 50 taels of silver and the remaining in sold satin. Wang Liuer, I thanked him twice for 100 taels of silver and 6 sets of clothes, used to buy noodle clothes, jewelry, maid, and build a house. Simon King and Jiati's punishment: Mao King sold the goods and used 1,000 taels of silver and a pig to bribe Simon King. The money was divided between the two. Jia Tixing used his money to ask someone to take the exam for his son, and bought him a martial arts student approximately equal to a scholar. Later, when the two encountered Zhang Xiaoshu's retrial case, they took out a total of 500 taels in cash and some gifts to Zaijin for help. Daiyan, Ping'an, Shatong, and Qintong, 20 liang from Daiyan, and 10 liang each for the others. Mao King, he kept 100 taels of silver for himself and fled back to Yangzhou. Mao Yuan's family property, wives and concubines were all waiting for him to inherit the arrangement of fate, the intrusion of bandits, the influence of money, the fraud of corrupt officials, and a bloody murder finally settled under their combined influence. Mao member Wei died unexpectedly, and Tong saved his life, and the second boatman killed someone to pay for it. Simon King and Jia Ti were punished with near misses, and they were corrupt and perverted the law. Mao King escaped from danger and was at large. Others were happy with the money and making money. In terms of plot design, this is a cliched but overall relatively perfect criminal story. Obviously, the core of the criminal case is Mr. Simon, deputy punisher of King County. But the current Mr. Simon is not the novice who bluffed when faced with the adultery incident of the uncle and sister-in-law of the Han family. Now he does not even look at petty bribes. He can also handle murder cases with ease, and he has become a man of great power and domineering power. Before he had any direct contact with the case, he already knew everything about it. He was not asking for a small bribe. He had accurately calculated the bargaining chip in Mao King's hand, and was determined to take it with the profit. It was not that he did not know the consequences of indulging the murderer, but there were witnesses. But no physical evidence. Secondly, the robbers were able to jack up the tank. Thirdly, Mao King could escape to the ends of the earth. Fourthly, the worst was the backstage in Tokyo in the final analysis. Mao Yuanwei died unjustly, and the second robber was completely given to Simon. King worked hard. Simon King, who received 1,000 taels of silver, generously gave half of it to Jia Ti for punishment, and did not falsely report the amount or deduct any amount. This is not so much about conscience and shame, but Simon King's shrewd calculation. Simon King knew that Jia Ti was a criminal military attaché and was poor and short-minded, so he would not mind if he was short of him. On the other hand, 500 taels was not really a big sum for Simon King, so instead of withholding the amount, he could not agree with Jia Ti. If there is a conflict between Xing and Xing, it would be better to simply give half of it honestly in exchange for innocent. But then again, Jia Tixing is also profound. In Zheng Xiaoshu's later impeachment report against the two, all the details of Mao King's case where the entire responsibility lies with Simon alone, not to mention the severe punishment of Jia Ti. Half of Simon King's bribe was in vain. In addition, there are two other people who grew up in this case. One is Dan. As described in the last chapter, Dian has grown into a ruthless character. Facing such things, his thinking is exactly the same as that of the book boy, even more determined and sinister, although he understands that Wang Liwer will see Simon King sooner or later. He is more. It was clear that Mao King's serious crime did not allow him to wait for a few more days, so he extorted 20 taels in one breath. Readers of Jin Ping Mei will naturally understand the purchasing power of 20 taels, and what an astronomical figure it is for a young man like him. The other one is Wang Liwer. She had new confidence in her charm, and she believed that she could intercede for Mao King. However, she never expected that Simon King would not accept or object, but teach her to blackmail a bigger sum. Wang Liwer, who grew up in the city, seems to have found a way to enter the upper class. It turns out that in addition to being shameless, he also needs a dark heart. Perhaps this is the first revelation that she will escape from stealing money in the future, except for the innocent soul who died in vain. This is simply a story that everyone is happy with. In the era of Jin Ping Mei, or in many eras throughout the ages, this was commonplace and customary. If we must ask, what is missing here? Perhaps we would say that it is the concepts of justice and integrity sex stuff.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.